members of the travel and tourism industry who are watching us today worldwide. My name is Burcin Turkkan, and I am the 2022 Skål International World President, and it is my pleasure to be with you all today. First of all, I would like to start with sharing my excitement with fellow Skålings as we are celebrating Skål Month in April. This year, on April 28th, we will be celebrating our 88th anniversary of Skål International Association. We will do an online celebration connecting live from Torremolinos, where the Skål International Executive Board will be present with International Skål Council members. But more exciting this year, we are celebrating the 90th anniversary of the beginning of the Skål movement with the formation of the first Skål Club in Paris. This July, they are celebrating their 19th anniversary and planning a fabulous weekend for all. Also, after 2 years of no Congress due to pandemic, we will be holding our World Congress again this year in Croatia between October 13th and 18th, continuing on celebrations and doing business among friends. Now, I plan to be at both major events, and I hope to see everyone joining these celebrations with us. In honor of our Skål Month, I am very happy to host a very special guest today, Mr. Mehmet Nane, who is the CEO of Pegasus Airlines and the president-elect of IATA. But most importantly, he is now a fellow Skåling as he joined Skål International Istanbul Club in February. Welcome, Mr. Nane.
Hi, Ms. Chairperson. How are you? Thank you for the invitation.
Thank you very much. It is my pleasure to finally meet you for now. Well, thank you very much for joining us. I know you have COVID and you have been recovering, so it is absolutely, we appreciate you being here today. Thank you.
Pleasure.
Our 12,500 members are very excited to have you join Skål International. Before we start to talk about the recent updates in the industry, if you will allow me, I'd like to start with your bio first. Mr. Mehmet Nane became CEO of Pegasus Airlines in March 2016. Prior to joining Pegasus, he served as CEO of Carrefoursa between 2013 and 2016, CEO of Technosa between 2005 and 2013, and Vice Chairman of the Board of Technosa between 2000 and 2005. After holding positions in various business units at the Türkiye Emlak Bankası, Demirbank, and Demir Invest between 1998 and 1997. Mr. Mehmet Nane held roles including Vice President of Strategic Planning and Project Development Department and Director of the Retail Group and General Secretary of Sabancı Holding within the Sabancı Group, which he joined in 1997 until 2005. Mr. Nane graduated from Boğaziçi University, Department of International Relations in Istanbul in 1990. In 1993, Mehmet Nane received a full scholarship for his graduate degree from the Department of International Banking and Finance at Heriot-Watt University in Scotland. He also completed the Harvard Business School Executive Management Program in 2013. Mehmet Nane has served as founding chairman of Asia Pacific Retailers Federation, founding chairman of the Turkish Federation of Shopping Centers and Retailers, president of the Union of Chambers and Commodity Exchanges of Turkey Retail Council, chairman of the board of the SEV Health and Education Foundation, and chairman of the Association of the Harvard Business School Turkish Alumni Association. He currently holds the following positions in various non-governmental organizations: board member and chair-elect of the Board of Governors of the International Airport Association, IATA, chairman of the board of the Turkish Private Aviation Enterprises Association, vice president of Union of Chambers and Commodity Exchanges of Turkey Civil Aviation Council, vice president of Turkish Tourism Investors Association, member of the Board of Trustees and member of the TOBB-GS1 Turkey Foundation, member of the Board of Trustees of the SEV Health and Education Foundation, member of the Board of Trustees and board member of Boğaziçi University Foundation. Mehmet Nane is founding member of the Yanındayız Association and Women in Technology Association, and he joined the PWN equality ambassadors as a part of the manifesto of gender equality, supporting CEOs by Professional Women Network, PWN, Istanbul. Mehmet Nane is married with 2 children. What an impressive bio. Mr. Nane, I'd like to talk to you about what's happening in the industry today. We have been in pandemic for the past 2 years. While getting excited coming out of it, we are now facing a war due to the invasion of Ukraine by Russia. We are seeing a global economy collapse due to the pandemic and war. Increase in travel and fuel costs and drop in passenger numbers are some of the primary challenges faced by the tourism and aviation industry. Now, I know you are president-elect for IATA, and I'd like to ask you the questions as the CEO of Pegasus Airlines today. So I'd like to start with asking you, how do you see the future and recovery process for post-pandemic?
Thank you, Ms. Chairperson. I would like to thank you all for inviting me this webinar, and I would like to apologize from you because of my voice and if I cough during my speech, because I just got second time the corona last week, and today I just turned back into negative, but this Omicron is affecting the throat and I have a sore throat and it is affecting my talking also. So I would like to apologize first of all for this. In order to answer your question, I would like to give you a kind of brief summary what we have faced in the last 2 years under this pandemic crisis. So if you remember, late in April, early in December 2019, we heard from the news that there's a kind of virus coming from China, and this virus is affecting people, and people are getting sick. And this is similar to the SARS.
Yeah.
After that, these news started to appear a lot and frequently until the February 2020. During the February 2020, and by the end of February 2020, WHO declared that there is a serious pandemic coming, and this is going to affect the whole globe. So from Wuhan area, this virus became a global problem instead of a regional issue. And when there's a virus, we remember this from the SARS previously, it's going to affect the travel or the mobility of the people. For this purpose, IATA started to publish certain reports. The very first report was published on the 20th of February 2020. And IATA said that there's a virus in the globe. This is going to affect our business by 5%, almost 30 billion USD. And consecutively, every other week, they repeated this report until the 14th of April. The second report was published on the 5th of March. They said that, look, chaps, this pandemic is getting worse. It might affect more than what we thought. It might affect almost 18 to 20%. This is sum up to $115 billion. 15 days later, on the 24th of March, they said that this issue is serious and this is becoming an issue for the globe and the transport and the tourism industry. Is going to be $252 billion. And finally, on the 14th of April, they made their fourth and the last report because nobody can see what's going to happen. And they said that this time, this is going to affect $315 billion, which is almost 54% of the 2019 figures. So in 20 February, they said 30 billion. During 14th of April, which is almost 55 days later, they said almost 315 billion, 10 times more. So what does this mean? That nobody in the globe can able to understand the seriousness of this pandemic and could able to make any suggestions. So we were facing such a problem. Previously, this problem was faced by the globe in 1920 as called Spanish flu. But I'm sure nobody is still remaining from those days who had experienced how to manage the business. And we started to learn by ourselves. So what we have learned, first of all, we need to cut the cost because income is not coming. Then we need additional finance. We have to use, first of all, our in-sources, then bank credits, and finally, we have to go to the government. And the globe managed this in a way. And there are certain companies who couldn't able to manage, including in Turkey, and some aviation companies, unfortunately, declared bankruptcy during this period, and nobody could able to support them. And this was the bitter side of the coin. So I would like to share with you certain graphs in order to show you how deep this crisis is and how it affected our aviation industry, both domestic and international.
Yes, please.
So, of course, this is the good part of the story. I will show this at the last. Can you able to see the screen?
Yes, perfect. We can see
yeah.
it.
So if you look at this chart is saying that when we have here, I think this is almost February, March, how the drop occurred in the RPKs in the global aviation industry. This is a perfect showing how this crisis was depth. And this is according to the IATA statistics. If we divide this to domestic and international, the domestic get less affected, but of course, it is again a steep fail. And international is much worse because almost international flights stopped for a certain period of time, and then it started to recover. So when we look at these periods, this is the March period, I can say March and April, there were almost very little international flights done in the globe. What are the results? According to the IATA reports, the results were really devastating. Reduction of the overall seats sold compared to 2020 and 2019. In 2020, 51% less sales sold. Almost 2.8 billion less people traveled. And total loss in the industry reached up to 390 billion USD. So this is a really devastating, and ICAO also said that this was a report published in January 2021. This will continue 2021, and they were right, 2021 was like that. But this graphic is really important. In this graphic, according to the ICAO's report, you can see, starting from 1945, the crisis and their effect on the global traffic. So, 1973, the oil crisis, nothing big happened. Iran-Iraq war, nothing big happened. In the Gulf crisis, we had a small going down, but this was a stable. Asia crisis, nothing. 9/11, it went down for a little period of time, then recovered back again. SARS do not have a big effect. The financial crisis in 2008, it's flattened, but nothing. But when we come to Corona effect, you can see how steep it is.
Yes.
It was something never faced before. And this was the problem that we have to overcome. And this comics is very important. The most important part is not the COVID itself, but how we're going to recover afterwards.
Correct.
So this was the serious issue in front of the industry and industries. What we have done in that period of time, as I told you, cash became not only the king, but everything. Yes. Managing the cash was so important. And companies who are able to manage the cash and could able to increase or raise some cash, survive this combat.
Yes.
You can look at your businesses and you can look at your colleagues and you can look at your industry. The cash generating companies could able to survive. And as Pegasus, we made loss in 2020, again a loss in 2021. But how we can survive? Our total losses accumulated 370 million euros.
Yes.
We survived because of the cash position that we are creating and cash that we inherited from 2019 profits, because our shareholders decided not to distribute a single penny dividend. So we kept that in the company and still we are using that cash. And we have luckily one advantage, especially 2020 and 2021 during the summertime. The tourism is very important for our country, both domestic and international. And we created huge cash because of that touristic, I can say, transportation in that term, and survive in order to spend that money for the coming seasons. And this year we said that 2022 will going to be the year for the starting of the normalization. We said the same last year. 2021 will be the starting of the normalization, but in April, nobody knows where it's coming from, but a Delta variant came and hit the globe. And tourism very important for us, but UK market. UK opened the tourists coming to Turkey or their citizens in order to come to Turkey and lowered us from red list to amber list in September.
Right.
We missed whole high season, and UK tourists are very important for our country.
Yes.
So we said that, okay, worst is gone. This year is going to be the starting of the normalization. And when we come to February, we just started to have the Ukrainian and Russian war.
Yes.
What are the consequences? Not only losing the business coming from Ukrainian and the Russian market, the total loss for our country, if we couldn't able to get any tourists from those countries, will going to be around 8.5 to 9 million passengers. Only for our companies, 1.5 million passengers. But that's not important. If we can able to solve the humanitarian issues, that can be good. But this war affected both commodity prices,
Right.
crop prices, and the fuel. So these two have negative effect on every single household in the globe.
It does, yes.
As long as you're losing gasoline or petroleum and you're using crops in order to, in your dietary requirements, daily nutrition program, you got affected.
Yes.
Besides the humanitarian side, which we believe that it will stop as soon as possible. If it is possible now, this issue, because 3.5 million Ukrainians left the country and 6.5 million Ukrainians moved from one city to another. And in 2022, this is not acceptable. Of course, we will find an amicable way as a globe to come over this issue. So again, this year was not the start of the normalization, and the things are getting worse and worse, because when we were having the corona, at least because people couldn't able to use the gasoline prices went down to almost zero levels, but in average it was between 20 to 30 dollars per barrel. Now it is over 100 barrels and per barrel, $100 per barrel, and it went over $120 per barrel. And these are having devastating effects in household economy and country's economy. So the damage that was caused by the Ukrainian and the Russian war was not by itself something, but the side effects making it very strong. And this strong issues are coming on top of a tired industry which is getting out of the corona battle. So on top of that, when we added this commodity crisis due to this US-Russian invasion, it's going to be worse in our situation. So how are we going to survive? Of course, we're not going to give up. As long as there is hope, we can survive. What we're going to do, we're going to look at our sources and what we can do best under these circumstances. So as an industry, as a company, we are trying to do that at the moment. We try to shift the flights from Russia and Ukraine to the other markets. And we are hoping that this problem will solve amicably in the shortest time manner. And according to that, as a global industry, we will start business with these countries again. So these are I can say, the small rounding tour, starting from the corona and the Russian invasion to Ukraine, and try to give you certain information.
Yes, you summarized it really well. You started from the beginning of the pandemic and how it affected, the entire industry. You showed the differences of how the past crises were showing an effect, and the current pandemic that we went through had a tremendous, a devastating effect, to the entire industry and the economy. You also touched base on the, now that, the Russian and Ukraine war is affecting the industry. So this is a serious issue. So we were receiving from our partner resources that the second half of 2022, the numbers in travel would be reaching back to 2019 numbers if we don't experience another variant. So do you agree with that projection? Do you agree with that projection? And considering that there will be a solution, an amicable solution, at the end of this current conflict that we're experiencing in Russia and Ukraine?
There are three scenarios published by the Eurocontrol. One of them is the base scenario. According to this base scenario, the normalization will be there in 2023. The worst case scenario, it goes up to 2025, and the best case, the moderate scenario, it is 2024. So when we look at even the base case scenario, 2023, according to company, the normalization period is going to change.
Right.
What do I mean? There are two main structures, low cost and the legacy carriers. Legacy carriers are the ones which are having business classes, and low cost we have a single class. So when we look at the reasons of travel, people travel for 5 reasons: for business purposes, for health purposes, for education purposes, for pleasure and tourism purposes, and for ethnic reasons. What does ethnic means? If you are not living in the area that you are working, even in the country or abroad. For example, Turkish workers who are working in the European countries are coming back during the summertime almost for a month to the country. And this is a big traffic for us. So the business travel will not going to come back. Why? Very simple. There are 130 participants to this webinar, and there are people from all around the globe. I saw people from India, which was raising a hand, and people from Europe and everywhere, and you're joining from the United States. India, United States. When you look at the time frame, it's huge. And when you would like to conduct this meeting in somewhere like in Geneva, in the midway, so everybody has to fly almost 8 hours, at least. And this is going to be increasing the cost for us. The cost is not only the amount of money we're spending for the flight and the accommodation and the others, but also time-wise. So we are conducting this in a timely manner which can fit everywhere, and we are consuming really time. And how much time? As long as we stay online.
Right.
But if this was a live webinar, the time consumption was not only as long as we go live, but at least 2 days and costs adjacent to that. So because of these reasons, because we find out being online and the cost reasons, unless it's a must, you're going to be there, the business travels is going to be less.
Yeah.
How are we going to compensate the loss that we're going to make from the business travel? Leisure and tourism. Because when people stuck at home, they saw that how it is important to be travel and to be free. So you're looking from the window, you can see the streets, but you can't go. So in a way, for a certain period of time, we were in a modern jails in our houses or in our offices. So people saw the merits of traveling according to their budget. It can be domestic, it can be international. According to our budget, the household's budget, we're going to continue traveling, and we find out the merits of seeing places. And ownership of the assets are converting more towards experiencing. And when there's experiencing, travel and tourism is one of the main tools that's satisfying that requirement. So when we look at these 5 reasons, we're going to see that people are going to travel and people are going to see new places. But because of the pandemic, all the budgets were affected. Country budgets, household budgets, company budgets. So we would like to exercise and we would like to get benefit out of this travel pleasure with little money. How are you going to do that? You're going to choose hostels instead of 3-star hotels, or 3-4-star hotels instead of 5-star hotels, or low-cost carriers instead of legacy carriers. Instead of flying with business, going with the economical class. So because of this, certain companies will recover faster than some other companies. And I believe that low-cost carriers will recover in the whole globe faster than the legacy carriers.
Yes, agreed. Actually, you touched a very important point. I was at a global HR summit in Toronto last week, and all the big corporations were there, banks like HSBC, RBC, Unilever was there, and there were over 500 participants. And the discussion was in regards to basically the focus on the HR is these big corporations are trying to create, and they're openly saying, we want to have remote work. That's what we are trying to enforce. Yes, we are promoting hybrid too, because we do have employees who still want to go to the office. But what they're enforcing is, people staying at home and working from home, because it is saving them money. It is saving them liability, so that's real. And then there were also big high-tech companies and, AI companies, and they are all talking about the tools to give to these corporations how to do their annual meetings on the virtual environment. So they're talking about these VR experiences where participants can have this real meeting environment for the VR. So you are absolutely right. The business travel, to me, it seemed like, with all these, preparations that the big corporations are planning, it will be reduced. And as you said, the leisure travel will be in high end. And you're saying, my understanding is, it will be because of the budgets and all that. It will be more that people will be either going with, hostels or Airbnbs, or of course, the high end will still go to luxury. So probably, this will be the future niche market, Airbnbs or extreme luxury. Would you agree with that?
Definitely. When we look at I have retail background, and I was chairperson of the several associations during my retail career. What we saw always during the crisis, there is one sector which do not get affected. And even during the crisis, they increase their sales, is the luxury brands.
Right.
Because when you have the money and when you couldn't able to spend due to this is psychology and according to the people's spending habits. When you have money and couldn't able to spend due to the crisis that you're facing, you would like to spoil yourself. You would like to buy presents yourself. And those presents are the luxury products. And those you can buy by yourself without showing to the others. This can be a handbag for usage, or a private watch, or an expensive mobile cellular phone. But you would like to spoil yourself. And that's when you started to get into the luxurious world also.
Right. Agreed. Yes. Well, now I'd like to talk about a little bit more on the impact of, what's happening around the globe in terms of, the climate change. So we do have, in 2022, we have initiated committees engaging our members to work together, as you know, and one of these committees is the Advocacy and Global Partnerships Committee, and they also focus on global issues, sustainability, and one of their questions that they wanted me to ask you is, it's about the climate change. So as we know, the climate change and environmental issues are key challenges faced by the airline industry for a very long time. What are your views on that subject? How does this affect the airlines?
Not only environment, but ESG is becoming very important in the business community.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're not applying the ESG rules, including the environment,
Mm-hmm.
I think in the future, it is going to be very hard for you to find the customers, and customers are making their selections according to your support on the ESG side.
Mm-hmm.
On the ESG side, one of the most important items is the environment. In the aviation industry, there are two initiatives taken. One of them is by IATA with the CORSIA, the carbon offsetting mechanism, and the other one is the 2050 zero carbon emission, I can say, promise of the IATA members.
Mm-hmm.
So these are two important initiatives that we are applying as the industry. CORSIA, what does it mean? Starting from this year, we're going to start measure our carbon emission and compare it with 2019 levels. If we are over, we're going to go to the carbon market and try to buy that carbon, or we would like to support certain projects. Either it can be an SAF, the Safety Aviation Fuel Manufacturing, or certain projects that can be saving us from using the organic fuel,
Mm-hmm.
but converting them into the renewable energy sources. Those projects are going to be favored.
Mm-hmm.
But because of this crisis, both the corona and this Russian invasion to Ukraine, this is going to happen, I think, not early than next year.
Mm-hmm.
So I believe that, including our company, we couldn't able to reach the 2019 levels by the end of this year, or we will be at par. But starting from next year, we are ready, and there's a kind of index in the Istanbul Stock Exchange. Our company, as a listed company, is in that list, and we are announcing. And as a company, we are one of the very rare in the whole global industry. First of all, we are announcing our monthly carbon emission rates per customer or per seat.
Mm-hmm.
Second, we are also announcing interim reports. I told you one of them is the CORSIA initiative. The other one is IATA's 2050 zero carbon emission. 2050 is 28 years from now on. So as a company, we decided, in order to put and oblige ourselves to our customers, an interim results. So we said that in 2030, we would like to lower our carbon emission by 25% compared to 2019 figures. And this will follow by other interim reportings. By this way, we feel that we have to do something internally without waiting the 2050. I might not see, according to average Turkish male age, that 2050 as a person, but we have to do something from today in order to enable zero carbon emission in that day. If you do not take certain actions, it won't come at that day. So we, as citizens of the globe today, as responsible people in certain companies and industries, we have to take actions today, and Pegasus is taking those actions on behalf of its jurisdiction area and try to give out the interim reports and publicly announce this in order to oblige the company to fulfill those promises.
Excellent. Yes. Yes, now you can also see when you're like, booking flights online, if you like just go simple Google looking into, itineraries, it does give the carbon emission information next to it. So this is something, that we all see now. Another question is about the aviation fuel availability. So aviation fuel availability and costs have always been one of the major economic factors affecting the airline industry. Do you foresee alternative fuels or alternative power sources emerging to meet this challenge?
Definitely, one of our lobbying areas as a company and as our global association, the IATA, is try to, I can say, lobby in order to create and manufacture new SAF resources. That's why one of the methods of carbon offsetting is supporting such projects, which is going to enable us to manufacture SAF fuels. So we as a company, when the time comes, and as an industry, we are supporting such initiatives in order to create more SAF. And of course, the countries are taking certain measures, but companies has to take. For example, there is no mandatory requirement for the domestic flights in Turkey using the SAF fuel, but we made the very first flight in the country using the SAF flight. And in 2 destinations currently, we are using the SAF fuel only.
Yes. Okay. Wonderful. Mr. Nane, as president-elect of IATA, is there anything you wish to add regarding your upcoming important position?
IATA is a very important organization. Just to give you a brief information, IATA was established in 1945. After the Second World War, the winning countries' leaders came together in a conference called Yalta, in an area called Yalta. And the main purpose of this meeting was, look, we ruined the world. Millions of people died. Now we have to recover that, and we need certain global organizations in order to support what we are doing. After that meeting, IATA was established, World Bank was established, IMF was established. And these are global institutions established in order to regulate the rules and regulations in their respective jurisdiction in the whole globe. So IATA is ruling and regulating, with the ICAO's support, the aviation industry, both on passenger side and on cargo side. And currently the members companies of the IATA, which is around 292, is executing 92% of the global air traffic. So IATA is controlling through the IOSA safety audits their member companies and whether they are in line with the standards or not, and also working as a clearinghouse between the agents and the aviation companies in order to guarantee the money flow by both means. So IATA is very important in ruling the global aviation industry. And I believe that as the chairperson-elect, I will have my full support to our Director General, because IATA is managed by a Director General appointed by the Board of Governors. And this Director General is managing 1,200 people in certain different locations of the globe. Mainly, we have 5 main regions, and according to those regions, the IATA is making their management. And we believe that the private side of the aviation was ruled and managed by the IATA, and the governmental side of the industry was ruled and managed by ICAO.
Wonderful. Well, as you know, you will have our support as well. About 35% of our 12,000 membership is in travel agency and airline industries. You'll always have our support as well. Mr. Nane, I know you made the greatest effort to be with us today, despite you having COVID. So I would like to thank you very much for being with us today.
Thank you,
and on behalf of Skål International Executive Board and its 12,000 members in 100 countries, 320 cities, I would like to congratulate you for your new appointment as President-elect IATA. I also would like to invite you to our upcoming World Congress that will take place in Croatia in October 13th to 18th. And I think, you know, our global membership would love to meet you there in person. So
Thank
thank
you.
you very much. And thank you very much, everyone, for joining us. Very much appreciated. And happy Skål Month, and hope to see you all on April 28th with a live celebration. Thank you. Have a wonderful day, wonderful evening, wherever you are. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.